This is my Fujifilm GFX100II. It is both my dream camera and my workhorse. That's why I feature it here in this channel, and if you'll join me for a few minutes, I'll tell you all about it. There's so much that I love about this camera, and there's also some room for improvement for future versions. So, let's go! Welcome! If you're new here, my name is Jan Malmgren. I'm a Swedish photographer, ecologist and writer. And this channel is devoted to my interest in photography and all things photography related. It is also about sharing my knowledge with over 40 years of experience and also some of my photography for you folks. Sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's philosophical. If that sounds good to you, then please consider subscribing to the channel and press that little bell icon too, so you'll get all the updates that comes along in this channel. One of my viewers recently asked me about why I chose to make my photographs with this Fujifilm GFX100II instead of perhaps the more affordable GFX100S Mark II. Well, there's a short answer to that question, and also there's a long answer to that question. If you'll be patient with me in this episode, I'll tell you all about the long version, and perhaps you will get the short version at the end of this video. Hang on to see what happens. So, with no further ado, here's why and what I love about the Fujifilm GFX100II. Also, I will tell you something about the journey that Fujifilm went through building this camera. Also, I'll hand a few suggestions for Fujifilm and for us viewers out there, us nerds out there, to think about in relation to when the new models will come. Yeah, so let's go. Let's dig deeper into the Fujifilm GFX100II. The Fujifilm GFX100II is Fujifilm's flagship digital medium format camera. And it was released in September of 2023. So it is already coming of age. Considering that the first generation of GFX100 was released in May 2019, a new model may be just around the corner. So let's say, for example, that Fujifilm maintains a 4-year cycle for their flagship medium format cameras. My guess is that we'll have a new model, for example, the GFX100 Mark III, somewhere at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. But today isn't all about speculation. Today is about my favorite camera and my experience with this camera. I'll tell you a bit what makes it so special to me, and also perhaps what I wish was different. Before we begin though, I want to emphasize something very important. Expensive cameras won't make you a better photographer. It's as simple as that. The one thing that really gets you into high-level photography is practice, practice, and practice. And also mix in some experimentation and creativity in that mix. You need to be devoted to your photography and not to your gear. Perhaps why I'm saying that in relation to also expressing my love for a certain camera model is perhaps that I'm getting a bit old. I've had so many cameras, and few of them have spoken to me, but I've put them all to use in my photography, and now I've come up with a camera that really fills all the desires that I have for a camera. It ticks all the boxes, and that's what makes it so fascinating to me too. The GFX100 Mark II is a wonderful tool, and I'm saying tool because that's what you need to get. Cameras are just tools for your creative vision of making great photographs. Although it is a wonderful tool, is this a tool for the experienced photographer? It has something of a learning curve to it. It's quite complex. I have also heard a number of photographers in YouTube videos that came to the Fujifilm GFX system from Nikon, Sony, or Canon, for example, and they found the menu system in these cameras so bad or so intriguing, so full of different levels that they almost left the system just due to that complexity. And sure, it is a complex menu system in this camera, especially when you compare to Hasselblad X2D series of cameras. It has this beautiful Scandinavian design and very, very few options really. But if you're a Fujifilm shooter or have used other Fujifilm cameras before, the menu system in the GFX is practically identical to the menu system in almost all the other Fujifilm cameras. Well, that may be a flaw in Fujifilm's way of doing menus, but it has worked, and it is a good system for finding the stuff you need. But as with any camera, you need to practice, you need to sit with your camera when it's new, you need to learn where all the buttons and functions are, you need to do the custom settings so that you are comfortable with shooting with such a camera. And by doing that, you'll also learn the menu system. It's not as complicated as it perhaps looks. And also, if you're just starting out with photography, perhaps there are better and more affordable options of cameras to choose than buying straight into the GFX system of Fujifilm cameras. Of course, it might be tempting, but this is a camera that needs to be put to use, and also a camera which is such a heavy investment for most people's wallets. So you don't perhaps need all the bells and whistles that this camera supplies. So this camera is much like, when you learn something, you open the doors and you find a level of complexity, then you open another door and there's another level of complexity. It never ends. This is an advanced tool. It will help you do the photography that you want to do, and there's almost no limit to what this can help you to do in the future. But there's one thing that this camera won't help you doing, and that is teach you how to capture light, how to frame your composition, how to think in photography. That is what you need to learn by books or studies or getting together with other photographers or by watching YouTube videos. So there's a bit of a learning curve, of course, but there's also some use that you need to put into your photography to become an accomplished photographer that also can have joy with such a camera. Also, a disclaimer. I am not sponsored by Fujifilm. This episode is not sponsored by Fujifilm. I have no affiliates with them. And I have bought all this gear that I'm using with my own money. So you don't need to flack me down because of me being bought by Fujifilm. I like the Fujifilm brand, no question about it. But they have not invested anything in my equipment or in my training. So these are my honest opinions, and I share them with you as a happy hobbyist and a fellow nerd. I've come to this experience also after almost 40 years of doing semi-professional photography, even once running my own studio. The GFX100 Mark II is my dream camera, simply because it fits my every need, it fits my style of working, also it fits my hands. The grip is perfect, I think, and you have all the buttons you could wish for just at the point of your fingertips. And that is quite important. But, you know, it's my dream camera. It may not be yours. And you have to come to that conclusion yourself, because that's perfectly fine. I could make almost identical photos with just about any camera I get. But I have chosen this one as my working tool. And the same is, of course, true for you. The camera itself doesn't do the photography, you do. So please don't go into gas mode after looking at this video. Be warned. Okay, so now something about my journey into the GFX system. When I ended my photography business, the studio, I sold all my gear. I had mostly Canon professional cameras and lenses, and I wanted to do something else and just lay off photography for a while and see what came along next. I felt an urge to getting back to photography, you know, as we all do, I think. And in that time, Fujifilm had released the Fujifilm FinePix X100. And after that, a number of different Fujifilm cameras followed. So I've been devoted to Fujifilm since the early 2010s, and now it's 2025. You know, this camera is just like an iteration of all the X series cameras. So the camera makes a lot of sense when you look at the other Fujifilm X series cameras. But then in 2018, something important happened. I was ready to investigate more in different cameras from Fujifilm. And Hasselblad had released their X1D, the 50 megapixel digital medium format camera. And there were a lot of rumors around that Fujifilm were also producing a digital medium format. They made quite a fuss about it, saying that we will skip the entire full frame series of sensors, going from APS-C directly to medium format, because that's where we think that the future is with all these digital advancements that the sensors made at that time. So there were quite a lot of rumors about the new Fujifilm digital medium format camera, and there were also some dummy pictures that floated around the internet. And in a few of those pictures, Fujifilm had laid out, or whoever made these dummies, they had laid out a camera that looked a lot like the Hasselblad, the 500 series of cameras, you know, quite modular in their design. You had the camera body, you had the viewfinder, you had the detachable film back or digital back, you had the lenses, you had grips, and etc. You had a lot of accessories. So with all these rumors floating around, it was quite a fuss inside the camera community, especially in the Fujifilm rumors community and stuff. People were very excited about this modular design, being it a dummy or not. And one of the days, the Fujifilm GFX 50S was announced, and it didn't look much like the dummy pictures, but a few years later, Fujifilm actually confirmed that the dummies of this very, very modular design were actually their own. So they were experimenting with a lot of different kinds of cameras. And especially in this interview also, they spoke about that dummy and how they actually hope that one day it could perhaps be built as a regular camera and sold to customers. However, I don't think that really is plausible now, especially when you consider that Hasselblad released the 907X series of cameras with a digital back. I think those cameras would be quite similar to each other, but perhaps we'll see where Fujifilm will take their innovation at the next level. So anyway, when the GFX 50S was released, it was quite a revelation. Not only did they build upon their own brand design formula, it looks a lot like the retro cameras of yesterday. Whereas the Hasselblad X1D is more modern, more of a designer's camera. So the 50S actually brought to the table a number of benefits which actually reminded me especially about the grand old days of the Hasselblad modular system. You know, you had the camera body, you had the lenses, you had a detachable viewfinder, you had a grip that you could place underneath, and there were a lot of accessories like the tilt adapter for the viewfinder. So suddenly you had a digital medium format system which competed with Hasselblad system and were also a lot more affordable. Both the camera bodies and the lenses were more affordable than what Hasselblad released in the market, not considering that Hasselblad was very slow in the beginning to release actual models. So there was also this lack of cameras and lenses in the stores. So that's something we bear in mind now, that the GFX 50S was a modular camera. It had a very nice design, and it introduced a number of new things actually to the table for us photographers wanting a more affordable digital medium format system. With this modular system, you could put together the exact tools that you needed for the job you were going to. And that is quite important. You know, this day I will need a grip. I will put the grip on, some extra batteries, sure. I will have the viewfinder, the tilt adapter for the viewfinder. I'll bring that too in the bag. So there's a lot of flexibility around building a modular system of cameras. So I think that was quite a clever move for Fujifilm to tap on that almost Hasselblad territory. So I bought my Fujifilm GFX 50S used in late 2018. So that's where my journey into the GFX system began. And it was such a dream camera. It was a photographer's camera. The video options were there, but very, very limited. So it was all about photography. And that's really something I think that Fujifilm needs to get back to when we're talking about the GFX system. This camera, the GFX100II, is a hybrid camera. It has some really advanced video functions and a lot of advanced stills photographers functions, but you can't be a jack of all trades. You need to focus on something, and that's where I think Hasselblad is succeeding now. They're building these premium photographers' tools, focusing just on the ability to make great photos. But the Fujifilm GFX 50S was a photographer's camera. It was designed for people who understood and enjoyed their craft, and it featured a 50 megapixel medium format sensor. Then, after a few years, Fujifilm released the Fujifilm GFX100, the first version. And that was quite the camera too. It was close to the modular design. It had the removable viewfinder. but it had a built-in grip, so it was quite large from the beginning. And many people actually hated the vertical grip because it was naked. It was just a pure bit of plastic. It felt very plasticky. So that deterred quite many from using it. It is still such a great camera, and especially now you can get it for just $2,000 or $3,000. So it's a great affordable way of going into the GFX 100 system. If you don't like the vertical grip and the plasticky feeling of the grip, you can add, as I did, just some rubber adhesives on the grip, making it a lot sturdier to grip onto, and it looks quite nice too. So if you buy a GFX 100, the first version, today, it will be such great value. So you can't go wrong when buying that. It has practically the same kind of sensor as the GFX 100 Mark II. It is perhaps a bit slower in autofocus, but if you're doing landscapes and portraits, that's not really necessary to have all this continuous autofocusing. I can say that because I came from a time when there was only manual focusing, and of course autofocusing is a great way to assist you in making the right captures, but it won't replace a good photographer. And I'm not a photographer who do all these burst modes, trying to take as many photos as I can for as a short time as possible. So for me, that really doesn't matter. So the GFX 100, the first version, is still such a great affordable value if you're into buying your first GFX camera. And of course, not to be forgotten, the GFX lenses are so incredibly great, and they are actually more affordable than the Hasselblad lenses. So if you're weighing against going into Hasselblad digital medium format or the Fujifilm GFX line of cameras, then you need to know that used prices for lenses is quite more affordable for the Fujifilm system than for the Hasselblad system. And I don't think that will change. And some parts of that explanation is of course the brand itself, but also that the Hasselblad lenses has a built-in leaf shutter into the lenses, and that is a complex mechanism that is perhaps a bit more expensive to produce. So the GFX 100 is such a great camera. It is still very relevant, and it will be for many, many years to follow. So it's a great way to get into the system. During a time, I also had the Fujifilm GFX 100S. It was released a year or two after the 100. Sort of like a more minimalist camera in a more friendly size and weight. But it didn't have all the bells and whistles from the Fujifilm GFX 100. So I had it as a backup buddy. I really never used it much, but it was quite lightweight. You could always bring it along with you, actually do some street photography with it too. The thing I always missed with that camera was the modularity. You couldn't take the viewfinder away. You couldn't add an extra grip if you wanted to. So it was a really good camera, quite a lot of bang for the bucks if you're buying it used today. And it's a great camera. It takes a lot of great photos. Of course, it's a great camera. You can do a lot of great photography with it. It still has that 102 megapixel sensor. Then, in September of 2023, the GFX 100 Mark II was released. So what I did was I sold both the GFX 100 and the GFX 100S. So I sold them both on the used market, cashed in some of the money I had spent on them, and of course kept all the lenses and accessories, and I went into the GFX100 II. So that was 2023, and now it's 2025 when I record this. In the late 2026 or the early 2027, I am sure we will see a new iteration of the Fujifilm GFX cameras. Anyway, what I love with the GFX100 II is that it went straight back to the modular philosophy of the early GFX 50S. It had this detachable viewfinder. It had the tilt adapter that you could put on, and you could put your viewfinder onto the tilt adapter, and then suddenly you had all this functionality. You could rotate the viewfinder, and you can angle it just as you want it when you're out shooting. So if you want sort of a up-down look at the subject you're focusing on, you have this opportunity to do that. So that's such a great modular design. So instantly I felt very at home when this GFX100 II, and also it brought back the modular design of the GFX 50S with the extra grip. So suddenly you could also mount a vertical grip. It has slots for 2 more batteries. So you just screw this grip on, and you have access to all the buttons right at your fingertips. The shutter, all the bells and whistles on the backside, and it brings that quite nice vertical positioning of the camera. It's quite a hefty clump, but it's really nice to work with it. Perhaps one negative thing to say about the grip is that it is quite, it builds quite a lot downwards. So you could, I could see that this could be a lot smaller, but it is still a grip. It does what it does, and it's a great addition, and it brings also that modular value to the table when you're shooting with this camera. So there you have it. You have the tilt adapter, you have the removable EVF, and also, of course, you can use the camera without the EVF at all. You just remove the EVF, and then suddenly you, if you're one of those guys that shoots everything with a back display, I'm old-fashioned, so I like to have a really great viewfinder, but most of the guys you see today in point of view videos, they run around looking at the display like this, and I'll never really get used to that, but it's a generational thing, I guess. This is actually what I just love with the Fujifilm GFX100 II, the modular design, and that you have this flexibility in dressing up your camera just for the type of photography you are out doing. And also, of course, you can't forget the lenses. The lenses are so good for the GFX system. They are sharp, they are very capable, and now after 7 years of producing GFX cameras, they have a really great lineup of different lenses for the system. So this is the 53.5. It's the smallest lens you can have to the GFX system. It is something of a sort of a kit lens if you want to, but it's a nice lens. One of the really great lenses, I have this 55mm here, and also this 45-100 this is one of the really great lenses of this system. And of course, it's quite a hefty camera when you're out shooting with the 45 to 100. But this is a great range. And when you have these larger lenses, it's really, really great to have the grip to work with. So it gets a lot more balance. I wouldn't say it's a heavy system, but it has some heft to it, and you need to take care of your hands and your arms, etc. But also we have a hood for this setup too. When you look at this camera, the GFX 100II, you have the tilt adapter, you have the grip, and you have the 45 to 100. I think when you just view it like this, it reminds at least me a lot about the Hasselblad H6D series of cameras. It doesn't have the big back here with a film back or a digital back, but it has all the bells and whistles, and also it has the flexibility. It lets you work with the camera in so many ways. And of course, I wear glasses, and I think this is really something that is so nice, that you can get the viewfinder a bit away from the display here, so you don't put your nose against the display each and every time you take a picture. So now it's just, it's just amazing. So this EVF in itself is quite a miracle. It has 9.44 million dots of resolution. It is 1.0 magnification, and it also updates the refreshes up to 120 Hertz. So that is quite an amazing treat for a viewfinder in this system. I think the modularity makes all the difference with the GFX 100II. When you see it like this, and you can use it just as you want it. So you can say that the viewfinder with its 9.44 million dots of resolution is at the heart of this camera. It's such a pleasure to use a viewfinder, and when you're making photographs with this camera, it's all about the viewfinder, I would say, at least for me. It is the highest resolution EVF on the digital prosumer camera market. So you won't get near it anywhere else. If you compare it to the GFX 100S Mark II, which came a couple of years later, it has this fixed viewfinder. The viewfinder has 5.76 million dots, not bad, and it's actually the same resolution as Hasselblad has in their X2D and X2D2 types of cameras. But anyway, that's less than two-thirds of the resolution of this GFX 100 Mark II. I'm not saying that 5.76 million dots is bad, because it's not, but 9.44 is simply better. To get the EVF to be used in 120 Hertz mode, you need to put the camera in boost mode. And that's also where the extra battery grip is actually quite handy, because then you have a lot more battery power that can support the boost mode, and you can take full advantage of the high resolution and the refresh rate of the EVF in this camera. And for someone like me who spent decades looking through optical viewfinders, with mirrors on film cameras, having this level of clarity as in this viewfinder and the detail is quite transformative, especially when you combine the viewfinder with the possibility of just when you're composing your image, just pressing in this dial, and then you go to full resolution. You go to 100% of magnification, and you see all the details, and you see all the sharpness, everything, and then you just press back and you're back into the full view. It is just a pleasure. It's the magic of this camera, I would say. So when you're composing landscape images where every detail matters, that difference is quite significant. And of course, the resolution is really helpful when you zoom in to see if you captured all the details you wanted or not in the ready picture, or just when you're composing the image in the viewfinder. Since I'm old school, I almost always shoot with the EVF, very rarely holding the camera in front of me and composing it on the display. I use the display quite often when I compose images when I have the camera mounted on the tripod, but that's another thing. And of course, the real magic comes when you combine this EVF with the tilt adapter, where you have this possibility to turn the adapter around and angle the EVF just as you want it. Perhaps you're down low shooting stills macro or something, then you need your EVF to be positioned like that. No problem, you just rotate it and angle it to your heart's best. So I'm so glad that this tilt adapter thing came back with the GFX 100 Mark II. For example, this camera can do pixel shifting. Most cameras today can do that. But then you need to be very, very careful. You have to have a really sturdy tripod. You put it on the tripod and you make sure that all the details are there as you want them. And in those cases and circumstances, the EVF and the tilt adapter is a quite great tool to have. When you're going to pixel shifting, the camera is doing a series of images, about 16 to 20 photos in high resolution, and then you can stitch those together in a special software later on, and then you get sort of like a 400 megapixel image of whatever you were photographing. I would say also that the grip is quite underrated with the GFX cameras. People who have reviewed it don't say much about it. I think that the vertical grip is excellent. It gives the right amount of sturdiness to it. And also I think that the ordinary grip on the GFX 100 Mark II is actually quite great. Everybody's talking about the grip on the Hasselblad X2D kind of cameras, and those grips are great indeed. They are perfect, but I think that the grip here on the GFX 100 Mark II is also very, very nice. And also, especially what's important with such a grip is that you have all these function buttons. You have two buttons right here between the grip and the lens, and that's actually exactly where my fingers are set. And then you can access the shutter, you can access the extra function buttons here on top of the shutter, and then you have access to all the buttons on the back of the camera too. So and then you have the thumb support here on the edge of the camera. So it's actually beautifully designed for being a photographer's tool. Everything is where it's supposed to be, right under or at my fingertips. Also, I have large hands, so living here in Sweden, half of the year is quite cold, and then I need to be able to shoot with my gloves on, and this camera is actually perfect for shooting with gloves. And in those cases, also the vertical grip adds some extra comfort to holding the camera and making all the buttons accessible, with the gloves on. So now I'll switch to the GFX 55mm lens. And this lens too is just an amazing lens. It's 55mm f1.7, which makes it such a beautiful lens to actually carry around almost everywhere. It's an all-round lens, I would say. And as you've seen in some of my episodes before, it's a perfect camera to use handheld. You know, it has perfect stabilization, and it's not that heavy. And also with the shoulder strap, you can just use it wherever you are, I think. So the GFX 100 Mark II is built like the professional tool it's meant to be. It has magnesium alloy construction, comprehensive weather sealing, and when you're out shooting in Swedish autumns or winters, you know, with rain, snow, and freezing temperatures, you need a camera that won't break down on you. And that's where the GFX is such a sturdy companion when you're out in the field. Now, both the GFX 100 Mark II and the GFX 100S Mark II uses a 102 megapixel sensor. There are some critical differences between the sensors of these two cameras. The GFX 100 Mark II has the 102 megapixel sensor, which has the HS designation. The HS stands for high speed. So it has an extra sort of high speed functionality to the sensor itself. The GFX 100S Mark II uses the standard 102 megapixel CMOS 2 sensor. It hasn't got the high-speed designation. Both sensors are made by Japanese Sony Semiconductor Solutions Corporation and are the same as those found in the Hasselblad X2D 100C and also in the Hasselblad X2D 200C. I haven't read it somewhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if the X2D2 has the same HS high-speed sensor as the Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark II. So what does this mean in practice? Well, the high-speed sensor allows the GFX 100 Mark II to shoot at 8 frames per second with a mechanical shutter, whereas the GFX 100S Mark II tops out at 7 frames per second. That might not sound like much, but it's about more than just that one extra frame. The high-speed sensor also reduces rolling shutter effects. Perhaps not perfectly. I think you will see if you try to get some rolling shutter that you will you can get it, no problem. You know, that's the kind of jello-like distortion you can have when you use the electronic shutters and then when you pan or photograph fast-moving subjects. The high-speed sensor variant provides also better continuous autofocus performance and more reliable face and eye detection. For landscape photography, though, I don't often need these features, but when I'm photographing wildlife or when I'm shooting elements in the landscape that is moving, you know, like clouds or in strong wind or water flowing, that is quite improved by the high-speed variant of the sensor. It has an improved sensor readout, which is good in certain circumstances when you're doing your photography. Both the GFX 100 Mark II and the GFX 100S Mark II offers the same impressive in-body image stabilization. You know, with the right lenses, it can do all the way up to 8 stops of compensation, which is essential for handheld shooting with these high-resolution sensors. Before I go any further, though, let me explain why digital medium photography and the digital medium format is so compelling for landscape and portrait work? Well, the GFX sensor in here, it measures 43.8 times 32.9 millimeters. It is about 1.7 times larger than a full-frame camera sensor. That size translates into real advantages. First, resolution, of course. 102 megapixels means I can crop heavily and still have files suitable for large prints. It's like having multiple focal lengths in one single exposure. But the cropping capability, to be honest, is something that everybody is just saying. With a sensor of this size and with the images you can take with this kind of camera, you learn to love the full resolution of that image. You don't feel the need to crop and do some pixel peeping. You can take the grand vistas, the great landscapes, and feel comfortable and confident that all the details in the landscapes have been captured, and sometimes to an just amazing degree of detail. A larger sensor is also something that yields smoother tonal transitions between light and shadow, between colors, etc. So the detail in these images almost appears smooth and sort of film-like, if that makes sense. But it's not just about the megapixels. The larger sensor with larger individual pixels gathers light more efficiently. It produces cleaner files with less noise and finer detail rendering. And then there's also the dynamic range. Around 14 to 15 stops compared to 10 to 12 stops on full-frame cameras. I can capture details in both the deep shadows and bright highlights in a single exposure. No bracketing needed for high contrast HDR photos. What really matters though is the tonal transitions that I mentioned before. Medium format produces incredibly smooth gradations between tones, from tone to tone. And there's no banding when you push the shadows or pull the highlights. The transitions feel natural, organic almost, especially visible in the morning mist, overcast skies, or in water reflections and in skin, of course. And one more thing. The GFX100 Mark II captures beautiful 16-bit RAW files. That's over 281 trillion potential colors compared to the trillion colors in 14-bit files. And of course, you can choose to photograph not in 16-bit color, but what's the point? If you have a camera like this, you shoot RAW and you shoot 16-bit color. No question about it. You want the most potential out of your images, your captures. So the extra bit depth here is quite notable, when you photograph autumn colors, autumn leaves on the trees, sunset skies. If you photograph in the golden hour or the blue hour, for example, that extra depth matters, at least to me, when you do the photographs. And you feel it especially when you do the post-processing. Finally, there's that medium format look, that elusive medium format look that everybody's looking for. But it's quite hard to put your fingers onto what the medium format look actually is. So I won't even try. For me, using the 16-bit color, clearly seeing that tonal range, the dynamic range, what these files do with the color and the rendition of shadow and light, that's enough for me. It's quite amazing. So I will simply not go into that rabbit hole of talking about the medium format look. Some people see it, some people don't. It's as easy as that. In short, medium format makes sense where you're after ultimate image quality. Now, are there things with this camera that I don't love, or that I would like to see something different with? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. The GFX 100 Mark II is packed with great video capabilities. And if you're a videographer, this solution, the GFX 100 Mark II, the ability to adapt certain or different lenses to it, it makes this for quite a compelling video camera. But I'm a landscape photographer. I don't usually film that much. I perhaps do some dabbling in filming with the GFX from time and again, but that's not the main purpose. Now that Fujifilm has released this Eterna video camera, perhaps they can go in another direction. I would gladly pay less for this camera if it didn't have the video capabilities. I'm actually wanting to see more of a GFX 100 Mark III as a stills photographer camera only. Well, perhaps the basic 4K video recording could be included, but for me, building a camera, with the removable EVF, the modularity as within this camera, perhaps a bit smaller in size, a bit lighter, also with perhaps a new line of lenses that are smaller and lighter. Hasselblad can do it. Yeah, just trimming that feeling and making a camera that is really, really special for us photographers, stills photographers. I think that's what's lacking. This camera, it doesn't lack anything. It has all the bells and whistles and everything you could ask for. But if I were to put something on my wish list for the next iteration of the GFX 100, then a stills camera would be something that I would crave for. Not necessarily getting rid of this one. I will probably keep this, but with a lot more focus, perhaps pulling the price down even further, so that more real photographers can enjoy the beauty of photographing in medium format. Back to the question that I began with, the viewer who asked me why I chose the GFX 100 Mark II instead of the more affordable GFX 100S Mark II. Well, the long answer, I think you have seen and heard if you followed me all this time. The short answer is perhaps a bit boring. I bought this camera long before the GFX 100S Mark II were available on the market. So this was the version that they released, and this was the version I bought. And I haven't regretted it since, especially, with the modularity. So this is a camera I will keep, but of course I look forward to seeing what Fujifilm will come up with next. Short answer, a bit boring, but it's the truth. But let me be clear about it. The GFX 100 Mark II is a specialized tool. It's for those photographers that really appreciate this kind of complexity. It's not for everyone. I want to be clear on that. And of course, I'm not here to sell you anything. I want to be completely honest with you about that. This is based on my own experiences and a lifelong wish of having just a camera like this. But if you're standing on the fence trying to decide between the GFX 100 Mark II and the more affordable GFX 100S Mark II, then here's some buying tips. If you value modularity, if you want that exceptional removable viewfinder with 9.44 million dots resolution, if you need the grip system for ergonomics or extended battery life, if you shoot in conditions where weather sealing and build quality really matters, then the GFX 100 Mark II is worth the investment. I'm sure there are deals to be made on it, and especially I could imagine also that it will show up used in some places. It will all be determined by if you're having the budget for this expensive camera or not. The GFX100S Mark II is an excellent camera. It has the same sensor, kind of. It has the same resolution, the same basic image quality. It has impressive in-body image stabilization, and it weighs less. For many photographers, perhaps most, it's the smarter choice. If you don't need the modularity or the video options, if you prefer a lighter setup, and if you can work comfortably without the grip, then you'll save a few $1,000s or even more if you buy the GFX100S Mark II, and you get basically the same image quality. But for me, with my large hands, my need for glove-compatible controls, my decades-long preference for that modular design philosophy, and my working style that values the tilt adapter and the grip, the GFX100 Mark II is simply the right tool. So, as for what comes next, if Fujifilm follows this pattern, with the GFX100 Mark III somewhere around the corner, what would I like to see then? Well, beyond my dream of a pure stills photography version, I'd love to see continued improvements to the high-speed sensor, even faster readout, even better performance, perhaps even higher resolution viewfinder options. And yes, maybe some price considerations that makes this technology accessible to more photographers. But I think the GFX100 Mark II is a near perfect camera. Make it smaller and lighter, add a series of new smaller or lighter lenses, add some computational features, and a better raw natural color solution, and lower the price. I know Fujifilm can do it, and they have before. Just look at the GFX100 RF and you'll see what they are capable of. What do I mean by computational features? Well, OM System, former Olympus, they were the first to introduce a fully featured set of computational features in their OM1 cameras. For example, the OM1 Mark II has built-in ND filters of several different strengths. It has a simulated live view graduated ND filter, which is also adjustable. So those are really, really interesting features, with the processors that are beginning to come in cameras like this. The options should be endless. The camera manufacturers should be able to do some more computational features inside the cameras. So Fujifilm, why not try adding some computational features in your stills-focused GFX100 Mark III in the future? I'm sure Fujifilm is listening to every word I say here. But for now, my Fujifilm GFX100 Mark II remains my workhorse. It's the camera I reach for when I want to capture Swedish landscapes and Swedish nature in all its detail and grandeur. It's an expensive beast, yes, a specialized tool, certainly, but for what I do and how I work, it's exactly right. It's a camera for me. And after 40 years of doing photography, it is my dream camera, and it is also the camera I can treat myself with. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining me today. If you had the patience to follow me all through this entire episode, I'm sure you learned a lot and also perhaps got some interesting tidbits of facts that is interesting to know about how the Fujifilm GFX100 Mark II came to be and what makes it different from other kinds of digital medium format cameras. So, what do you think? Where is the GFX system going, and what kind of features would you like to see in the next iteration of the system? Please leave your comments in the fields below. I read and reply to each and every one of them, and actually it brings me a lot of joy to go through the comments in this after these episodes. If you're not following this channel already, please press the subscribe button and click the bell icon and give me a thumbs up on this channel. It's so important for us small creators and these small channels. And then you can look forward to more episodes in the future and some updates to come. You can also check out some of my other videos if you're up to it. So that's all, folks. Have yourself a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you in the next one.